As of late, there's been a bit of discourse on what is or is not The Lord of the Rings, but when it comes to capturing the feel of the books, there is nothing that does as good of a job as Lord of the Rings Online. At least, that's how I remember it.
We were wrong.
Nostalgia is a funny thing. It likes to pick our best, most memorable moments and throw away all the clutter. The high that we remember getting from playing those games or watching those movies from back in the day just isn't achievable because that perfect memory you have is a fabrication. A lie built around the fact that your brain has just clustered together the absolute best moments. What I'm saying is that Lotro probably should have stayed in my nostalgia. I mean, sure, the world building and all the characters are absolutely fantastic in this game, and if you're a massive fan of just constant, non-stop, incessant exposition, then you will absolutely adore this game. But personally, I am not. Oh, what's that? A 5-page essay on how you discovered cranberries, and for some reason that requires me to go collect 10 bear pelts. Yeah, super. Now, the game itself is essentially the very definition of a mid-2000s MMO. No, I don't mean like mid as in like a 5 out of 10. I mean mid like in the middle, you know, like 2005. Yes, I know this game came out in 2007. We're moving on! Everything from the incredibly slow leveling to the structure of quests themselves, and even just walking from the one destination to the next area you're supposed to go is such an absolute slog. Now, arguably, that's very Lord of the Rings, because those books could sometimes be a bit of a slog, if you know what I'm saying. Becoming a subscriber will alleviate some of these problems, but there's only so much they can really do because the issues they need to overcome are built into the game itself. Something the devs are clearly aware of because they're coming out with a new expansion focusing on speeding up the process to get to level 30, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get another expansion sometime after that speeds up the process between 30 and 60, helping players get to the new content that they constantly keep on pumping out. Now, in these kind of videos, I usually like to talk about my childhood memories of playing these games and what it was like back then. But the problem with this game is all of my memories aren't even interesting. It's mostly just like, hey look, it's Bree. Hey, it's the Shire. That's cool. Hey, it's the Mines of Moria. Nice. I do have this memory of trying to convince my mom to play Lotro with me because she had just started playing Farmville, and I'm like, hey, you can do some farming in this game. That's pretty cool. That's way better than Farmville. She was not interested, though. My most prominent memory, however, has to do with this mode called Monster Play. It not only allowed players to be able to jump into PvP without having to worry about grinding for 5,000 hours to get to max level, but it also gave people an opportunity to play the villain. Instead of having to be something lame, like a human or dwarf or whatever, you could be an orc or a spider or an orc. I don't know how it was for other people, but on my server, the monsters were pretty much always losing. We barely had any of the forts captured, and just holding the ones we did have was an absolute struggle. But there was this one time where the good guys were a little bit less in number than usual, and the monsters a little bit higher. And just like other times in the past, the free peoples tried to invade our fort and take it over, but we were able to utterly destroy them. And with all the good guys now sent back to their spawn points, we had an opportunity to take over the entire map, storming one fort after another, completely obliterating its defenses, and eventually taking over everything that we could. At least for a little bit, until all the veteran players heard about it and came in and took everything back. But you know, for those few moments, it was incredibly exciting. But there is another memory that's a bit more depressing. You see, during my Monster Play excursion, I made a few friends along the way. They seemed really nice, we had a lot of fun, and at the day's end, they sent me a friend request so we could play again in the future. But after accepting that friend request and sitting there stressed out of my gourd, I ultimately decided to unfriend them. And it all has to do with stranger danger. That's right, you probably remember as a kid your parents telling you that you shouldn't interact with people on the internet because they're probably some creepy guy who's gonna kidnap you and do weird things. And while most kids hearing that brush it off because it's primarily nonsensical fear-mongering, I did not. I took it to heart pretty intensely. Now maybe that's because I have OCD, and when you instill a fear in me, it's impossible for me not to obsess about it and become incredibly paranoid. But either way, it meant that my MMO experience was incredibly lonely, especially since I didn't have any friends I knew who played any MMO at all. And that paranoia that was instilled in me from such a young age still infects my being today. But it also certainly doesn't help the fact that this MMO, just like many others, don't really require you to actually interact with people. Even if you're raiding or doing a fellowship, as long as you're doing your job, there doesn't doesn't really need to be any communication, which means there was also not really any incentive for me to break out of this insular rut. And that's a problem that really almost every MMO suffers from. There's never really a strong reason for the game to actually be multiplayer. And that's something that's really emphasized in Lotro, because pretty much all the stuff that was required to be multiplayer previously can now be done solo, which to be fair is more of a symptom of the dwindling player base, but it also seriously highlights this glaring issue. Even the PvP stuff back in the game's heyday barely felt like a multiplayer experience. Now look, I know I've been pretty harsh on this game for this entire video, but quite frankly, I would much rather have this game as it is than not at all. The fact that this game still exists despite being in the state it is really a testament to the players and developers who love this game. And even though the devs don't have the same level of resources that something much bigger like World of Warcraft has, they still do everything they can to try and make this a better experience for everybody. And I won't deny, I am very excited about the upcoming expansion, Before the Shadow. Something that'll give me a bit of a taste as to what the game developer's current model of game design is, as I slowly work my way through all the content that I've missed out on over the years. That's right, even though I've seriously ragged on this game for this entire video, I'm still gonna keep playing it. And if you're a high-level player of this game, I'd love to hear what your opinion is on the newer expansions. Do you think they're better? Do you think they're worse? Is it worth spending the $60 to instantly upgrade my character? Let me know down in the comments below. Also, I recommend checking out my Star Wars Galaxies video where I discuss a lot more of my memories with that game. I'll see you there.